Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're doing another interview episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's with me tonight?
Hello, my name is Barry Carenza, and I'm with Nintendo Fuse and Premium Edition Games.
All right, and welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
We met on Twitter. I think it was you that had reached out to me, which is nice. Doesn't happen a lot. People reach out to me, but you found me on Twitter.
Yes.
So I was looking up, and I see a couple things that you do. You have two different podcasts that you are currently part of.
That is correct, yes. I've been with Nintendo Fuse for about a decade. I was one of the co-hosts there on that the podcast. We do that every other Monday now at 8:30 p.m. We do that live on YouTube. And then, of course, it's audio on all other platforms afterwards. So that's always a nerve-wracking thing because you got to be presentable. You're on camera. You're live. No room for mess-ups, even though that happens all the time. And then I'm also co-host of the Premium Playcast, where we don't really have a set schedule because we're always so busy, but we use that as a way to play games and talk about games, but also give a lot of insider information about Premium Edition games.
Okay, and what is Premium Edition games? I hadn't heard of it until we met and I started Googling.
Oh, wow. See, that's what we're out there trying to do, spread the good word. Premium Edition Games is a physical publisher of digital-only titles. So we put out our games. We're on our 4th series right now, which is available to pre-order as of this moment until June 10th, which is Wonderling DX and Rain Your Parade. And each series of titles are just titles that we absolutely love. And because we go slowly, we have to love the games. And when we release them, we don't like bare bone releases. We've seen it from small publishers as well as big ones like Nintendo, where you get the game, you open it up, it's just the cartridge with a white inside and no manual. And you see this on PlayStation, you see this on Xbox too, and it's really disheartening. So we like to go above and beyond, even with our standard versions, where we give you a full color 20 to 30 plus page manual. We give you inlay art, so you're not looking at white. We give you a thick, hard cardboard, sturdy, matte, finished, foiled slipcover to put your game case in. And we also give you a challenge card inside every game, which has art on one side, and on the back has a developer challenge right from the developer. So if you were to succeed in that challenge and you post it on social media and you send us an email at support, we will mail you a physical patch for free as our way of saying congratulations for conquering the challenge that the developer laid out. And that's just our standards. And then we have our retros, which are in a Super Nintendo or N64 size box. And it's filled with goodies that as long as they fit, that the developers themselves wanted to include. So we do that with every release.
So far, has it just been Switch games that you guys have released then? Right
now, yes, it's just been Switch games. But, anything's possible in the future.
I mean, there's not many people who publish digital only. Before we met, the only one I had heard of before is Limited Run Games. And I'm happy to know that there's more people that do it because, I'm happy to see that games are getting out there because I know it's always a fear for a lot of people that games are going to be locked to digital platforms and never be re-released, especially licensing issues. So it makes me happy to hear that there's more people doing that.
Yeah, that's we're all collectors, and we always see these games that are lost. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was one of those big pioneered ones for a while, which thankfully now is a physical, but it's the definitive edition. The original version is still lost. But you look at how many games were on WiiWare that are gone, and now Sony announced the Vita, the PS3, and the PSP were closing. And there was a big hubbub, and they went back, and the PS3 and Vita are staying around for a little while. They will eventually close. PSP, meanwhile, is gone. So any PSP exclusive, could be gone there. I don't know how many will be available still on the Vita for a short bit. And now Nintendo's closing the 3DS and the Wii U, and we see all these people that are like panic buying. They're like, I have to buy this game now, or I may never be able to play it again.
Yeah.
And we hate that. That is the worst. You should never have to buy a game under duress, right? You should be able to take your time and know that you could purchase a game whenever you want one. At least can. And some games, they go out of print and they get expensive, but you could at least purchase it. You could say it's possible. I could throw up a couple $100 and at least own the game. You can't do that with a digital only game when the storefront is closed. Especially because these games are locked to your account. So even if you get another system, you have to get that person's account. It's a mess.
The Wii is very guilty of that. I remember back in the day when the Wii came out and the Virtual Console, there were a few Wii games I bought. One that I still want to replay so bad. I have ways, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. is Final Fantasy: The Crystal Chronicles: My Life as a King.
Oh, great game. Did you get Dark Lord as well?
No, back in the day, I had the Wii. I had the game. I didn't finish playing it because I had my son was like 1 at the time, so I didn't know what time was. And then my girlfriend at the time left and took the Wii with her when she left. So I never got around to finishing it. And I still, to this day, my son is now 14. I'm like, one day I'm going to play that game. But I always think when people bring up stuff like that, that's locked away.
And those are Final Fantasy games. So if someone said, I'm going to play every Final Fantasy game, including spin-offs, you can't unless you happen to have previously downloaded those games. And that's a shame. To have those games locked. So, we want to do our part to find games that are, we feel excel in every aspect, put them out physical, but we also task our developers with ensuring that the games are final. So we've, like Wonderling, which is out now, we had signed a while back. We waited till they told us the DX version is it. All the levels are there, all the bonus content, and that's going to be the version that's on cart. This way, that version is preserved. Rain in Your Parade, which is out now, we have this paid DLC, and we said we want the paid DLC on the card as well. So when you buy the game, you're getting the complete experience, and that's all preserved. So down the road, when digital storefronts are closed, you can say, I can at least play the game and play it in its entirety.
Okay. I mean, I like seeing that you guys exist. Are there other publishers that do what you do besides Limited Run? Oh
yeah, there's a ton. There's super rare games. There's limited games. There's special reserve. There's hard copy. There's one print. There's first press.
I thought
V blank. I'm 8-bit. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there that do this. And what's great is there's so many games out. Right? You look at the eShop, the PSN, and the Xbox Live. Every week there's so many games released. It's impossible to play them all, which means you're missing out on some great games that are going under your radar. And that means there's a market to bring those games out physical, and a lot of people don't pay attention to the digital storefront because they have plenty to play that come out physical. And then when they see a game come out physical, like people are like, oh, I've never heard of Wonderling, and now that looks great, and now it's now on my radar, and now they can purchase it and own it and play it and enjoy it.
As I'm looking through your list of some of your games that you guys have published, Cathedral, the one that gets my attention that I keep looking at.
Cathedral is a phenomenal game.
Cathedral
is just a beautiful 2D action adventure that's like Shovel Knight meets Castlevania meets Metroid. It's a long game. It's like 40 hours. It's so much fun. And that was part of our Series 3. And that's just shipping right now, the standards. And we will have second chance sales for all our Series 3 and some of our older titles next month in June after Series 4 closes. So that is certainly for people who are just discovering us going, oh, I want one of your past games. We got you covered. You'll get that, next month.
That's cool. You're able to go back and, at least have a second order. Because, I mean, I used to collect games all the time. I only buy digital now for the most part because I can't do it. I had to move. And when I moved, I have 4 bookshelves, or actually 6 bookshelves, full of PS2 games, GameCube, Wii, 360, PS3. And I said, never again. So I won't buy physical anymore because moving was terrible. So, but
and that's true. If you don't have a lot of room and you're moving,
well, unless you're buying what you want to play. Like for me, I used to have the Hannah Montana game. I had everything. I would just buy every dirt cheap 360 game I could find and then I regretted that decision. But I mean, these are like quality products. These aren't like, your stupid ripoffs. Like I used to own every MLB game, like 06, 07, 08. I didn't play them. I just owned them just because. So
I did the same. If you get it for $1, I'm going to grab it. If I don't have it already. But yeah, because we go slowly, every game that we do sign, it's something that the team plays, the team loves, and we're able to work out a deal. And we when we present the game to our audience, to the world, it's our way of putting a stamp on it and saying, this is a game that's worth your attention. And because so many people either do buy digital or when they buy physical, they buy a bunch, they put it on the shelf just like you with Hannah Montana and they never play it. And that's one of the reasons we do the challenge cards, because we love these games so much. We want you to play them and we want to give you an incentive to play them. And so many emails come in saying, and these are my favorite type of emails, like, here's my challenge submission, and I want you to know I had zero interest in playing this game. I got it because, I collect smaller print games and, the challenge intrigued me. So I tried it. And now I can't put the game down. Now the game's one of my favorite games. Thank you for introducing it to me. And that's what we love to see because we fell in love with these games and we think you will too.
Do you meet with developers long before the game is ever released then? And it sounds like
we've had talked with developers before a game was finished, and we have signed games before they were finished. One example is we were part of the Kickstarter in 2020 for Sunshine Manor, and that was part of the Kickstarter as a physical tier, and we're waiting for the game's done. We're now waiting for the game to be ported to the Switch for us to release our version. But when we signed the contract, we didn't just want Sunshine Manor. We wanted the first game, Camp Sunshine, as well. So our physical is actually going to be a 2-pack with both games in the series complete on cart.
Okay. That's pretty cool. I mean, when I do buy physical games, which isn't anymore, when I would do, I always love waiting for the, not collector's edition, but the complete edition to come out. Like Sleeping Dogs Complete Edition, for example, is one of them where I bought it more than once just because I wanted that DLC on a disc.
You see, that's a funny thing because back in, Xbox, the Xbox, PS2, GameCube, Dreamcast generation, and the next one, the PS3, 360, and Wii, a lot of companies would do that. They would do the Game of the Year edition, which had all the DLC. It was like $20. Maybe it was a player's choice or greatest hits or whatever. But those were great because you got an updated version of the disc with all the game content. The PS4, Xbox One, Wii U, etc. generation and upward, they cheap out now. So like if you go to the store and say, oh, look, here's Spider-Man on PS4, the Game of the Year edition with all the DLC, you buy it and you open it up, you're going to see the base Spider-Man disc with a download code voucher for the DLC. So you're not getting it all complete on disc. You're getting the same game with the download code. Now, there are some exceptions, like Horizon Complete Edition is all on disc. Okay. So that's a great, example of that. But those are both Sony. So it's like, it's not even like one company does it, one company doesn't. It seems to just be, hit or miss when they decide to do it. So you have to be careful. Some companies like Nintendo will actually shadow update their game cards with like free DLC. For example, like Mario Tennis came out on the Switch, and they had like a year's worth of free character updates and then stages and stuff. If you get a copy now, it has all those characters on the card because they were free DLC. Versus if you got a launch copy, you would have to download all those characters. So when the servers eventually go down, one of those games is going to be complete with all the content, and one of those games is going to be launch version without all the content.
Which I like part of the world we live in when it comes to how easily things can be updated, but that's one of the bums about it. So it's nice that you guys are able to not have that an issue.
Yeah, we ask every developer. We will hold a game. Robot Named Fight was another example. We got that early. We said we were interested in doing it. And they said, well, I just want you to know we're having co-op modes and deathmatch and stuff being added to the game. It's a free update, but that's still in development. So we said we want to hold off until that's done and make sure that is all on the card because we're about preservation as well. So when you buy any of our games, the game is going to be complete. I'm not going to say there's never going to be like a bug fix patch down the road, like a year or two down the road. We can't foresee that. Yeah. But it's no new content. Like all the content is done.
You're not pulling an EA where you have something that's there but locked away without this little code to be.
No. We hate doing that. We hate when other people do that, and we don't really count that. It's not physical. It's a code. Those codes expire. There's a legit expiration date on all those pieces of paper.
I was playing Dead Space 2 not too long ago, and I opened up my case, and there was my Game Pass inside there during that little phase where the EA games had a little Game Pass when you bought a game. I was like, I remember this bullshit.
So you had to buy the game new to be able to play online, or pay extra to play. Yeah, that was to combat used games. That's all garbage. But yeah, we absolutely do not want to ever go down that road. Now if there's a game that's like super big, and they say, look, we have like 3 years worth of content, but we'd like the physical now. Is there a chance we might do it? Sure. And then maybe later on do 3 years down the road, here's an updated version. But there would have to be something really big for us to do that. Otherwise, if it's like, it's going to be a couple months, we'll sit and hold. We'll hold if, as long as we have the game, we want it preserved. And the fans like it better that way. Because again, you see the Wii U going down, you see the 3DS going down, and look at Fire Emblem Revelations, right? A whole Fire Emblem game, an entire Fire Emblem game is lost because the only way to get it physical is through the collector's edition of Birthright and Conquest. So the only way to get that third full game is through the collector's edition. The collector's edition price just skyrocketed because, of course, Nintendo didn't print enough. And with the eShop going down, that would be the only way to play that game. And that is crazy.
That is really crappy. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah. Like, these are full games. Nintendo has Box Boy, Dylan's Roll, Western. Like, these are their own first-party IP that in America never got physical, only in Japan. So those games, gone if you enjoy them. They're gone. Like, Rhythm Heaven got a 3DS game. In Europe, got it physical. But the 3DS isn't region-free. So it's digital here. It's going to be lost.
I hate that. Like, that's why I'm happy. Like, even though I'm assuming like something that you guys had published, like let's say here, 5 years from now, that copy physically is gonna be worth a lot more money, but at least it's out there. At least it exists, out in the ether when the internet disappears.
That's the idea. People say like, oh, well, it's going to be expensive, but you know what? If you can say I can drop $1,000 and play the game, at least you can drop $1,000 and play the game. You can't do that with it. You can say, hey, Konami, you have the Castlevania Adventure on the Wii that was WiiWare. That's gone. Here's $1 billion. Can I buy the game? Oh, no, I can't. $1 billion won't buy the game. So I'd rather have even an expensive option versus no option.
Yeah, because for the preservation, like I love the fact that people do preserve games now in one way or another. People try to, and they recognize it as a medium that needs to be preserved. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff that's lost in the old days, like they're working on trying to save when they can. But especially in today's market, that shouldn't be a thing. So I'm glad that you guys exist in that sense that are trying to make it a little different.
Well, yeah, we realize the value of it, and a lot of these developers that we've dealt with, they grew up with the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, the Genesis. So they grew up with physical media, and these are all people who aspired to make their own games. And as a kid, I did too. I aspired. I'm not talented, so I can't do it. But I always aspired. Oh, it'd be great to have my own game. I always pictured it with the box art and the cartridge and all that stuff. And they did too. So it's awesome to be able to make their dreams come true on top of everything, because now they are getting their games physical. They are getting them tangible. They can hold them. They can have them preserved. And we're giving them that physical treatment. It's not just the cheap, here's the game card in a case with no inlay art or anything. We're giving them that premium package, and we're honored to be able to do that.
And I also think with the market changing, like as you see with GameStop not being the juggernaut that it was, I feel like also physical games are going to become more important as the world switches to digital, like I am, to have that physical, especially when you don't have such a conglomerate that's absorbing everything and having everything at your disposal. I mean, I think it'll be kind of more special too as the years go by that you guys are creating these physical.
I agree. I think people say digital's forever, inevitable, and you know what? Maybe it is down the road. Maybe digital only is. One of the reasons physical does exist is because of big box retailers, because there's contracts. Cards don't do the same thing as physical media.
Oh yeah.
But if it ever goes away, it's only going to be for a time being, because there's always going to be a market. Look at companies like Evercade. I think it's Blaze Media. Evercade came out, and here they are, brand new console, handheld, and a system, uses physical media, physical cartridges for compilations, older games, but it's a new system, and there's a market for it. People love it. It's a fantastic little system, and that just shows that there is a market for that stuff. So, look at vinyl. Vinyl disappeared for a long time, and now it's huge. Now vinyl's huge. Yes. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to see, maybe next generation or the generation after, Sony and Microsoft are going to be like, our consoles are digital only, and Nintendo will be like, we're still using cartridges. But you have to realize that if the previous generation system is using media, if you get rid of that media or a way to read that media, you lose that backwards compatibility. And right now, backwards compatibility is huge.
Yes.
The PlayStation 5 would nowhere be near in demand if it didn't play PlayStation 4 games. Same with the Xbox Series X. And when the Switch 2 eventually comes out, if it's not backwards compatible with the Switch, it's going to be a big misstep, because there's a huge library already, and you want that instant library on a new system.
Like, I want a Series X. The only reason that I want one, the main reason I want my Xbox One die, I have a ton of copies of physical things that I want to play at some point or have the access to.
Well, I mean, even the One S versus the One X, the One X is actually more powerful than the One S. Like, you're actually getting a more powerful machine.
Okay.
The PlayStation 5, both versions are the same power, but for $100 extra, you're getting the ability to play physical PS5 discs, physical PS4 discs, DVDs, and Blu-rays. That's really cheap for $100.
Yeah, it's well worth it for.
I mean, you go to GameStop and buy a whole crap ton of PS4 games for like dirt cheap, and just enjoy. That's going to pay for itself in no time versus the digital equivalents.
I miss doing that. Now that GameStop isn't what it used to be. I used to be one of those guys that would go every single week to my local GameStop. I would actually visit. Like, one thing I used to do, people make fun of me. I'd go to different cities and go to the random local GameStop in like a small town somewhere to see what they had, and I'd find the random shit. And I miss that.
I miss it too. I used to go to GameStop and enjoy going. Now I don't even know what to look for because there's like over half the store isn't games and it's just the current stuff. I miss the joy of discovering new games and finding them cheap.
Yeah, they're not the same.
No, I used to when the Wii, they used to buy 2 get 1 free. I used to walk out of there with like hundreds of Wii games, and like people would be like, "I'm buying 2 games. It's like $120," and I'd come to the counter with this like stack of like 100 so Wii games, and they'd be like, "All right, that'd be $65," and people would look at me and go, "Yeah, that's right. Less than $1 a piece, baby." Plus they had the Elite, right? So I got 20% off.
There was that too.
They used to have some insane sales. They had one sale where it was like you get 60% off used games when you buy a used system. And I remember I went to like 8 different GameStop to buy a bunch of games, and because everyone had different ones. And I finally had this list, and I walked into GameStop, and my buddy was working the register. I said, "I need you to return these games," and I gave him the receipts, and it was like $600 worth of games. And he's like, "Oh, you're returning?" I said, "No, return and rebuy." And it's like, okay, so return, rebuy, and it's $600. Now that was $600, on the pre-owned price. And I was like, okay, well, I have my Elite membership, so I got 20% off. And I said, "Oh, and how much is that DS, the 2DS over there?" It's like, "Oh, it's like $60." I'm like, throw that on there. It's like, okay, we owe you $465 now for you buying the DS. It was like insane. Like you were able to, really get some good deals, and maybe that's why they stopped it. What?
Oh, they stopped it because they stopped making the money. I actually know people. Where I used to work, I actually worked with a bunch of previous managers at GameStop and a district manager. So I got to hear a lot of like inside of how great they were. And then they just said that they were just watching it crumble in the last couple of years. And that's what they got out when they did.
Yeah.
They just weren't making the money.
I don't want GameStop to go away. I don't hate GameStop. I like having a physical game store, and there's a need for that. And it's great to see people come in and buy physical games, not come in and buy digital cards. But we'll see what happens with GameStop.
Yeah, I just stopped going because the deals aren't there anymore for me. No. And I don't really want to buy physical too much. I still order stuff. I was recently there to pick up Life is Strange for PS4.
Oh, great game.
Yes. I have like 4 copies of it. So I love that game. I have it on Xbox One. I have it on PS4. I have it on PC. Yeah, so I have 3 copies of it now.
3 copies. I have 2. Xbox and PS4.
It's a good game. Well, Xbox One died. And my wife, I don't want my wife to play on PC because then I won't be able to use my PC. So I bought PS4.
Ulterior motive there. I like
Plus,
it.
She doesn't like PC games as much as she'd rather sit on the couch with a controller and play in the console, not have a controller hooked up to a laptop.
You know what? I feel the same way.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you, how did you end up working for Premium Games?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was on Facebook. I'm in a lot of different gaming groups, and my partner Jeff. Jeffrey Wittenhagen, who was running at the time, it was the Switch Mania Playcast. He put out a call saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a new co-host for this podcast." And I said, "Well, I already do Nintendo Fuse. Why not? Let me send him a message. I'm sure other people did. There's probably 0 chance, but I'll send him a message." So we started talking a bit, and he's like, "All right, you want to come on for a guest episode?" I said, "Sure. We'll see how it works." So I did it. Had a great time. And next week, he's like, "So you good to record again?" I was like, "Oh, I figured you were going to test other people." So I was like, "Come back on." Okay. So after like 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, am I still on trial? Like, am I fit? I need to know my schedule here. Like, should I plan this every week? And I officially joined, and it was great. And he and the old co-host, JP, were in discussion to form Premium Edition Games. And I didn't even know they formed it. And they kind of teased me a little bit, like, "Oh, we got a secret. You don't know." I'm like, okay. And then they finally told me, and they said, "Are you interested in joining?" I said, "Hell yeah, I am." Well, you should have told me sooner. I could have gone to work sooner. But it's really right place, right time, circumstances got me in the door that way. And, became, we hadn't even announced it anyway, so we became the foundation, and we started pulling in other people from the community, and we launched our first direct, and from there the rest is history.
Is that your full-time job then, or do you do other work also?
No. So Premium Edition for all of us is actually a secondary job. It's not even really a job; it's a hobby. It is something that we love. The plan is after a few years, once everything settles with our current jobs, that we can retire from our current jobs and we can do this full time.
Nice. Okay. Were you? Because I saw you worked for Nintendo Fuse. That's a fan website then?
Yeah, Nintendo Fuse is a fan website that does reviews. It does news articles. Been around for a long time, since I think 2006. I think it was We Nintendo at first, and the podcasts was on for like over 90 episodes before I even joined it. We over 250 plus now, and yeah, it was just one of those things where it was an opportunity to express my love for video gaming, getting to talk to developers, getting to go to events as press. It just really was a dream come true. So. And that helped me because I gained a lot of experience doing podcasting, talking with developers, writing, and being able to take that and translate that to the Premium Playcast, and now translate that into Premium Edition.
Okay. Oh, and what is your favorite game so far that you guys have published? Do you have one that stands out to you?
That's tough because that's like asking what's your favorite child.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I mean, I love all of our releases. They're quirky and they're fun, and there's a lot of depth to them. They're different genres, so it's also extra hard because it's like saying, what do you like better, Mario or Zelda? Well, it depends on my mood. If I want an adventure game or I want a platformer, I
don't suffer that same illness because I don't like platformers. I love Zelda, so I just played Mario Sunshine and it hurt me. But so that's all.
Well, see, but that's just it. Like, Super Blood Hockey is a hockey RPG, and, you have Pigeon Dev Games Collection, which is like Super Meat Boy, Bomberman, and Run and Gun. And then you got, Robot Named Fight, which is like Super Metroid, and Demon's Tier, which is like Gauntlet, Cathedral, which is the Castlevania Shovel Knight, Phoenotopia is like Zelda 2, Mighty Fight Federation is like Power Stone, Wonderling is like Super Meat Boy Forever done well, and Rainier Parade is like Katamari Damacy if you were an asshole cloud. So, all of our releases are very, very different genres and styles. I mean, some people might say like Robot and Cathedral are similar because they both have a Metroidvania vibes, but they're two very different games. Robot is a roguelike where every time you play, it's a brand new seed versus Cathedral where it's a static map and you're going around and exploring. And if you find an area, everyone else finds that same area the same way.
I'm more into that type of game.
I am too, but there's something about Robot having infinite abilities, infinite Super Metroids, because it's just designed in a way to always give you the items, but it's always different items. There's over 100 different items you get in that game. So one game you could be playing like Sonic the Hedgehog doing spin dashes, and another one you could have missiles coming out of your head. Another one you have infinite jumps. One other one you're dashing all over. So it's really cool how it changes it up every game.
And since during our conversation, I've been wish listing a bunch of the games that you guys have published on Steam. So check them out at some point. So you got my attention.
I mean, this is the way we look at it. These games are all worth your attention. And if you say, I'm not a physical collector, but you're talking about it, so maybe it's worth my attention and I will choose to buy it in another medium, that's fine too, because you're helping the developer. And all these developers are absolutely worth helping. These are amazing people, amazing talent. And, we hope that if you do try it, Wonderling, for example, has a demo. So you can play the demo in the eShop before you purchase. But if you do like it, then you say, you know what? I want to support the developers even more because the developers make more money for the physical versus the digital, obviously. I mean, if you got a digital for like $2, they're going to get out, not a lot of money.
Steam's got to take their, what is it, 30 or something % they take?
Yeah, and Steam usually people buy games on Steam for $1, $2, $3. So So
I'm one of them.
Even if it's 100%, you're still only getting $1, $2, $3.
Yeah.
So exactly. So if you really like the game, support the physical. 1, you're supporting fantastic developers even more. 2, you're getting a phenomenal collection and a collector's version of these games to preserve and have on your shelf forever. 3, you can then open it up and try the challenge and win a nice challenge patch for free. Is there a way of saying, hey, I got this? And those are limited. Those are very limited. So, once they're out, they're out. And that's just something really cool to have
That
in your collection.
reminds me so much of the Atari days before my time. But
That's exactly where it is. We were inspired by the Activision days of the Atari and wondered why no one ever did it again. So we said we're going to bring it back, and still we're the only people doing it.
Because I think people don't. I mean, patches are a big thing in today's people collect pins and patches. It's a very normal thing. I mean, you go to Hot Topic, you go to many different stores, you'll see pins and patches all over the place. Like, people like that stuff still. Companies should do that little extra thing, but it's good that somebody's doing it.
Well, another thing that we're doing right now with our Series 4, if you pre-order on our website, premiumeditiongames.com, we're giving you a free bonus dog tag. Now, we did this with Series 3 pre-orders, and we are selling a starter kit with the first few games, dog tags, but we do custom dog tags that are actually printed on there. It's not stickers. It is actually printed on the dog tag itself. And this is just one little extra way of saying, thank you for supporting. We're going to give you an extra little bonus thing. And that, again, that's free. That's just our way of saying thank you.
That's good, though. I mean, you're going above and beyond. We
try because, again, we love our customers. We wouldn't exist without them. We love our developers. We wouldn't exist without them either. So we want to, we're premium edition, right? We want we have to live up to our name. We want to make sure that you are getting premium quality, premium games. Simple as that.
And I want to ask you, how long have you been collecting games?
Me, my whole life.
Okay.
Literally, 1982.
Nice. Do you remember the first game that you bought by any chance? Something that's stuck with you?
The first game I bought?
Or something that early on that got you into your love of gaming?
Oh, the Atari and the Commodore. Atari 8-bit and the Commodore 128. My uncle owned a software store at the time. So he had PC stuff, which at that point we were just IBM and IBM compatibles. And we, Atari and Commodore. So because he did that, he got my father into it. And my father was like programming using BASIC on the Atari 8-bit. We didn't have a 2600 or anything like that because we had the 8-bit computers instead. And he would always hook us up. He would always bring me to his store and be like, oh, have a game, even PC stuff, the old shareware discs. I remember used to get those like Hugo the Hunt and the original Duke Nukem and Commander Keen and all that stuff, the classic shareware 3.5-inch floppies. And just my love came from being surrounded by that, just finding the joy in the original Atari. Miner 2049er was a big one. Obviously, Pac-Man, the Mountain King. There's just so many great games that gone. Montezuma's Revenge was a big one for me. Agent USA, Star Raiders, just some classic games. And once I saw Nintendo, that was it for me. I was like, oh, this is even better now. Like, this is the new thing. I just want to move on. And it was one of those things where, as a kid, my mom was like, "No, you those the memes you see, like, oh, mom, I want this. Oh, you have this at home.
Yes.
This at home." That's what me. It was like, "Oh, mom, I want a Nintendo." It's just like, "No, you have a Nintendo at home." No, Nintendo at home was Atari and Commodore. Not knocking those systems; they're very special to me. But as a kid, you want the new thing. Oh, yes. My friends are playing Mario and Zelda, and I'm still playing Pac-Man. So it was one of those things where I always wanted what he's wanted. And finally, once I had money and a job, and I was like, you know what? No one could tell me no anymore. So now I'm going after all the stuff I missed, because I had, I eventually did get a Nintendo, but I got a Nintendo in like 94.
Yeah, so later in the life.
Much later. I played at all my friends' houses for the 80s and the 90s, but I didn't own one until then. Super Nintendo was 97 and 64 was 98. And it was like just getting that stuff, GameCube. But GameCube was the first system I actually got at launch in 2001. Okay. And then from there, I got every Nintendo system at launch. I got every Microsoft system at launch from the 360 onwards, and PS4 and 5 at launch. PS1, 2, and 3 I got later on. But I went back, I got Saturn, because I always remember the magazines and seeing the Saturn ads. Oh, I want to play those games. Yeah, the first time I got a PS2, and I got one PS2 game with it, which was Grand Theft Auto 3, because everyone was talking about it.
Yes, everyone.
and I used my PS2 for the first 2 years on PlayStation 1 games, because I went to GameStop and I bought a bunch of PlayStation 1 games that I missed, where I played at friends' houses, and now I got to experience them. Franchise that I love. Mega Man went to PlayStation. Final Fantasy went to PlayStation. Dragon Quest went to PlayStation. So I was like, oh, now I get to experience all these great titles that I missed. And it was just, Nirvana in that. But
I kicked myself. I had the chance to buy Suikoden 2 back in the day when PS2 was off like $30, and I don't want to spend $30 on this right now. And I look back and I'm like, damn it, because I collected RPGs even at that time, and I'm like, damn it, asshole, why didn't you just buy it?
Well, the same reason that, why didn't I go to Funkoland and buy Stadium Events for 25 cents?
Yeah.
I mean, you could play that game of, what if forever.
But
and
at least Suikoden 2 is a good game. Like
yes. and Stadium Events is just world-class track meet. It's more for the story because at least you can play the game. But yeah, I mean, Suikoden 2 is a great game. And that's
I was kidding myself. I had Suikoden 1 and I didn't want to spend the money that day, and then I never saw it again, and then I still have never played that game yet. I don't think so. I think I have a memory of me playing it, like my first emulation game on PS1 ever, but I don't know if that's real or not, if I ever finished it or not. Like, I can't remember anything about that game.
It's expensive, but at least you can actually purchase it.
Yes.
You can buy a physical copy of it. And
I know it was released on PSP also, but I don't think that ever came to America. I can't remember. There was a collection a long time ago when I remember looking out. There was a Suikoden game 1 and 2 for PSP. I think I remember, but I don't know if it ever came here.
If it came out in Europe, the PSP is region free.
Oh, okay.
So if it did come out in Europe, it would be playable. If it came out in Japan, it'd still be playable, but it'd probably be really hard to play in Japanese.
Yeah,
at least Europe should be in English.
I have it on my PS3, I think. I think it was a download game. If it was, I would have bought it. And what is your favorite system to collect for? I know, it's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question. The reason is, right now I've got the Switch set. So I'm keeping up with the Switch set. Every physical that comes out with the Switch. I also love collecting for the PlayStation 4. I'm not going for that set because there's too many sport games. But I have, the ones I really want. And there's a lot of quirky, weird PS4 and Switch games. And because they're region free, some great games that we never got over here. But I'm a set collector. I love collecting sets. And unfortunately, with the state of the retro industry right now, I was going for like GameCube and Dreamcast. 2020 hit, and that stopped it.
Didn't all the prices jump?
Everything jumped.
Okay.
So I started going for things. I look at the pattern of where people are going, and if everyone's going right, I try and say I'm not going to go right because there's too much competition. As a collector, I go left. So like I did Wii U, I did Vita, well before like they ended, and now everyone's going for Wii U and Vita sets, and they're expensive. And it's like, oh yeah, like Devil's Third is like $500 something. Like I got it for $60 when it came out.
I forget about that game. That's going to be one of the games that does not come off the Wii U, I feel.
Oh yeah, that one's staying there. Yeah. But at least again, it exists physically. Yeah. There's systems that people don't think about that are incredibly fun to collect for. Like I loved going for the N-Gage set. There was just something about it. It was just such a quirky system and has a really good library of games, much better than most people realize.
You don't hear that a lot.
No,
N-Gage.
But you got Civilization, you got Catan on there, you've got Elder Scrolls on there, you've got Warhammer, you got games that you were like, wait, what? This was released? This got a physical? There's just some weird, quirky stuff, and again, people aren't going for it. I just got the Neo Geo Pocket Color set with the assistance from a friend. Again, it's like people aren't going for those sets. I'm going to go for them because if there's less people going, there's less competition, supply and demand.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper then. I mean, another thing that kind of broke me when it come to like I was buying physical for a while. Moving and then just watching everything in 2020. The prices got ridiculous. I mean, I didn't buy retro. I just bought like PS4 or PS3 or 360, and just watching those prices just raise, and then GameStop not being what it was, and that kind of broke me when it came to physical because I'm like, the reason I love physical because it used to be cheap as hell, and then when it wasn't cheap anymore to buy like, I can buy 2 get 1 free, and I can take $20 and come out with like 4 games at GameStop that I didn't have. Like that went away. Or what I used to love doing is going to a GameStop and finding some random ass title for PS4. Yep. With some anime cover I never heard of before for like $5 or $10. I'm like, sold.
That's true. And those days still exist, though. You could still go and look through the PS4 library and the Switch library and stuff, and you'll probably find games you didn't know ever existed. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And sometimes it's fun just to go take them home and play them. Absolutely, I hear you. PS3 has jumped in price because of that announcement. When Sony announced we're cutting out the PS3 digital store, the physical version started going up. Then even though they backtracked it, the prices didn't come back down. They just stayed up.
Because they know it's coming. I mean, at some point, they're going to still drop it.
Yeah.
It just got prolonged.
Sony's not going to leave that up. They're not going to leave it up as long as it's profitable.
Yeah.
They realized we're going to lose a little money probably, every month to keep it up, but you're keeping the fans happy. But once enough time happens and that price, they start losing more and more money, they're going to be like, all right, we're eventually cutting this.
Yeah, they're not going to keep it going. And then I wanted to ask you, what do you consider your favorite genre of games? Like, what kind of games that really grab your attention? What genre?
JRPGs. JRPGs are hands down my favorite. I like Western RPGs too, but JRPGs is something about it. Adventure games, are up there. I love Zelda, but they're beautiful, beautiful games right there. But it's one of those things where if I had to pick only one genre to play for the rest of my life, JRPG, without a second doubt. And there's enough of them out there, and they're long enough that I would be able to play forever.
I mean, for the ones that can't, everyone but you that can't see the camera, I have a copy of Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 3, and Final Fantasy 2 above my head, always. Sure. Just displayed on my desk. My three of my favorite games of all time. And Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 6, but the SNES US cartridges.
Yes.
Which I love. I love JRPGs too. Chrono Trigger is my all-time favorite game, but there's so many. Like recently, I just went back and have you ever played Treasures of the Grudras for Super Nintendo? No,
I have not actually.
Okay, it's a Japan-only game made by Squaresoft. There's other ways to play it, but it never came here yet. But like Live a Live is coming to Switch here soon.
Thank
physically.
God.
I did it on my show last year or so. Yeah, last year, and I'm gonna pick that up. I want to pick that up pretty quickly because I'm so excited that they're finally re-releasing it and finally bringing it to America.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm super excited about that, and they're using the HD 2D engine. Yeah, there's so many games that never came, and I did play a lot through those other methods, especially in college when I couldn't bring my systems. Yeah, I played Final Fantasy V way before it ever came here, and
nice.
And Secret of Mana 2 and Trials of Mana now, but we called it Secret of Mana 2.
Shikendetsu.
Second Densetsu 3, Tales of Fantasia, definitely a lot of those titles I did do because, again, I was just into JRPGs and I really wanted to see them and we didn't get them over here. So it's nice to see them start coming over because there is a market for it.
Oh, yeah, and there's some great games. And those don't age at all. Like, they don't age the same way, especially that era. Like, Super Nintendo, games still look beautiful. PS1 is a little...
Early 3D games, N64 and PS1 have not aged well. Saturn, they have not aged well. That's the worst generation for aging.
Yeah, they also don't play that well either.
Some games still do. Mario 64 still plays incredible, which is the camera sucks.
I never played it that much. I've never beaten it. I own it. I played it back in the day, but I've never finished it. I've never gotten all the way through the game. I'm going to remedy that later this year because I'm playing it for the podcast because I need to freaking play that game once and for all, but I never really played it.
Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask still hold up, and
yes,
Final Fantasy 9 to me still holds up. Chrono Cross, Grandia. There are some that still hold up, but then there are other ones that are just no. This was great for its time. I remember looking at this and going, "Wow, I can't believe it looks like this." And now I'm saying, "Wow, I can't believe it looked like this."
Yeah, but we didn't judge it that way, so.
Well, yeah, because it was new.
Yeah.
But see, and that's the thing. The graphical leap between Super Nintendo and PlayStation N64 Saturn, early 3D was huge, and the graphical leap then to the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube was huge. And you could argue with the graphical leap then to the PS3, 360 era was also huge. But I think that was the last really huge jump. I think the jump to the PS4, Xbox One, Wii U was not as big, and the jump to the PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch is nothing. It's really... I couldn't tell you if you took me a screenshot. Is this the PS4 version or the PS5 version? I couldn't tell you. And it's so minute of an upgrade that it's to me, it's nowhere near the generational jump between the 8-bit to the 16-bit to the 32-bit to the 64-bit eras when you can see this is a Super Nintendo game. This is a PlayStation game. This is an NES game. You could really tell the difference, 3D versus 2D. Now it's, if you can see a difference, mazel tov to you. But the majority of people really, there's not a huge leap.
No, I'm not one that can really tell. I'm not big into graphics either. As long as the game, I was just playing the Bouncer last night.
Oh, early Squaresoft game.
Yes.
One of the last and only PS2 Squaresoft games. I think there's only 3 of them.
It still looks beautiful in those cutscenes. Like, that game is still gorgeous. It plays okay, but it's still gorgeous in the cutscene.
That was Nomura, I believe.
Yeah, he did the character design. What do we like? I like the joke is the early what we got for Sora.
Yeah.
It looks kind of like, he's getting there, like Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. He's starting to kind of look like that, like CM Barzad. It's a strange game. But
that's actually true. I think there was 4 games now. I forgot about Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts launched as a Square.
Yeah,
I think
that was still Squaresoft.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy X, Bouncer, and Drive Emotion Type S. I think were the only 4, at least in America.
What is Drive Emotion S?
That was a Squaresoft racing game released for the PlayStation 2 that most people forgot that Square even did a racing game, but they absolutely did.
Okay, you have my attention because I love early Square, or I love Square in general, Squaresoft.
Yeah.
I try to play most of their games.
Well, now you'll have to track down a copy because it does in fact exist.
And
it's Squaresoft.
Okay. That's going to be... I have a copy of Bouncer somewhere over there that I had for years. My PS2 collection has traveled states with me. So,
there you go.
And my last question I want to ask you is, what is your favorite game? It can be something that just childhood game usually tends to be what people say. Like
that is a loaded. What's CT?
That's my favorite personally.
I mean,
perfect. So
people ask me this all the time, and like I was just on a podcast and I couldn't go through top 5. I couldn't even do top 5. I'd say if I only had to pick one game that stands above the others, and it's totally unfair, but it has to be, and that's Final Fantasy XI. And Final Fantasy XI stands at the top because not only is it a great game, not only is it, stood the test of time, but I've made so many friends that are still my friends today, that we're friends outside the game. But most importantly, I met my wife playing that game. So no other game has given me eternal happiness like that game has. So it's an unfair advantage, but by default, that has to be my favorite game of all time.
What server were you on?
I was on Phoenix.
Okay, I was on Bahamut back in the day. I used to play it too. I quit when what was the expansion Wings of the Goddess, I think? Was it the one after? Okay, I quit when that came out.
The treasure. See, I kept going until Seekers. When Seekers came out, I felt Seekers was a garbage expansion, and I lost interest.
I just couldn't handle the way that game was after a while. Well, a big part for me was my girlfriend at the time that I was with. We both played Final Fantasy XI, and she met her future husband on Final Fantasy XI and left me for him. So that kind of broke me of the game. Like, I'm done.
Well, that's understandable. I'm sorry that happened to you.
I did was for the best, but it's funny now.
Happens to a lot of people. We knew a lot of couples that also met playing that game that are married to this day, and none that left somebody else for it. But I do know people who absolutely cheated on their significant others in that game. Just not physical, just the emotional.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those games where you had to invest so much time that you had to get close to people. And whenever you get people who are spending all these hours and get close together, things start to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game I loved. Like, I want to go back and play a version where I can just solo everything and just run through. I just want to see some of the old areas. I want to see Windhurst again.
Oh, good old Windhurst.
I mean, I started in Sandaria, but my main, when I went back to the game, was Windhurst, and that's where I left it. But it was something else at one time.
All you have to do is go to YouTube, put on the soundtrack, and close your eyes, and you'll be back. Music alone in that game.
One memory that a lot of people that won't get it, but I remember like early on when I first got the game, before I really understood anything, there was one weekend where me and my buddy, who we were friends in real life, and we turned it on. We ran from Sandaria to Bastock at like level before we got the sub jobs, and we just ran all the way there. And I remember being like, "Wow, look at this!" And it was my first online experience was 11.
It wasn't my first online. I had played briefly like Earth and Beyond before that, but it was my first MMO that I was like really into. And I had a similar. I remember going to the dunes for the first time and being in a party, and someone was like, "Oh, my friend's here. He's going to take me to Windhurst. Do you want to go?" Because I was from Bastock, and I was like, "Sure." And like, all right, well, we got to get to Selbina and we got to get on the boat. And I'm like, well, we got to wait for the boat, and we got to wait 10 minutes. Oh, yeah. This is like real life. This is great. And then the boat is like 15 minutes, and I'm like, oh, yeah, 5 minutes to leave. And I'm like, wow, I just spent 30 minutes on a boat, but I didn't care. I was having the time of my life. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're running through the Morphon Mountains and, trying to get the peninsula, and we're getting down to Windhurst, and I'm like, everything's like trying to kill me, and I'm like, oh my God. And I finally got there, and it was like 5 a.m. by the time we got to Windhurst, and I was like, I'm gonna log off here, but wow, what a journey! Like I really felt like I just trekked across the world, and I had no idea where I was or how to get back or anything like that. But I'm like, I'm starting a brand new adventure. I don't even know how many people have even ever seen this town because I played at PS2 launch, so it was like really, really early. It was 2004. So not a lot of people had even played it in America.
Yeah.
It was only on PC for a few months prior, and like memories like that could never happen again because it was that innocent age. The internet was still more in its infancy, and there weren't games of that scale really yet. And this was also before World of Warcraft even came out.
Yeah, this is after EverQuest, but before what I consider the big like jump. What WoW did to that genre. Exactly.
So it was a very special game, and stories like that will here it is almost 20 years since that. It's 2022. That was a 2004, and I can remember it like the back of my hand. So
I want to go back every so often because I'm actually still friends with my ex that left me. We had a kid again. We still talk. We haven't broken up for years, but we still talk. She's always like, "You need to go back and play 11." I'm like, "No, but I want to, but no."
I play 14 now when I have the time. That one's at least a little more solo friendly.
She's always trying to get me to play 14 also. She's like, just sign for the free trial. I'm like, but I do a podcast. I play a game every week. I don't got time.
14 is a different beast because you can be in a free company, you could have friends, but you don't have to do anything with them. You could use the Duty Finder will match you with people to do dungeons, or now you can just use NPCs to do dungeons. So you could play the entire game solo as a single player game. And
that's what I want to do. I just can't get myself to go back.
Well, I'm not talking 11. I'm talking 14.
Oh, yeah, with 14. Well, I can't get myself to even install 14. I just can't get myself to do it.
It's worth it. The story alone is worth it. Like, it's one of those games where they built it up to end game levels where, like the Marvel movies, they build to end game, whereas like this slow build up over 10 years, and then you get that big climatic. They did the same thing with Endwalker, where they build everything for 10 years, and then it comes together. Awesome experience.
Maybe one day, if I stop doing the podcast, and maybe just for the show, I play a game every week. Plus, I do sometimes I play 2 games in a week. Sometimes I do movies, and I do too much content. But
hey, you got to do what you love, and that's the important thing. Sometimes you got to put other things in the back burner, but at least things like this you can always go back to.
Yeah,
you could always go and play.
All right, and where can people find you at?
Sure. So you can find me on Twitter at Hawk Hellfire, where I'm always available for talking video games. You could also find Premium Edition Games at premiumeditiongames.com, where, again, we have our 4th series up until June 10th. That's Wonderling DX and Rain on Your Parade. So the retros are limited to 500 only, and they're going fast. Standards are open pre-order, so you can always get your copy. If you do it during the pre-order window, you will get the dog tags per version for free, so make sure to get those dog tags. You could also find us on Twitter at Premium Edition 1. You can find us on other social medias, Premium Edition Games. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter on our website, and we have a Discord, so please join that. Nintendo Fuse, you can find me at nintendofuse.com on youtube.com/nintendofuse, as well as at Nintendo Fuse on Twitter. And we also have a Discord there with Nintendo Fuse, so please feel free to join if you'd like. And the Premium Playcast and the Nintendo Fuse podcast, you could find on all podcast services. We're pretty much everywhere.
Okay. And thank you for joining me. And you enjoyed this show. You will see a link to all his stuff in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this show, we have over 300 episodes you can go check out. We do comics, movies, games, all sorts of crap. TV seasons I even review too. I review anything I get my hands on. So definitely go check all that out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube at audio only, but we are there if you'd rather get your podcast that way. If you're looking for old episodes, can't find everything you look for on Spotify or iTunes, check out Podbean. Everything's on Podbean. And want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Free. You can follow her on TikTok. She made our music. And also give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did my MCU roundup with me when he covered the whole Infinity Saga, each movie beat by beat for 23 movies. He started his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40, so definitely go check him out. And we have a Patreon. We have monthly polls. You can vote for little as $1. You can help vote and decide what's going to be on the show. And I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.